We're just starting to learn how to play with each other, with our rhythm, our chemistry, and just going to be.
The drama surrounding Sophie Cunningham and the WNBA's refereeing crisis has exploded into one of the league's most controversial sagas in recent memory. What began as a frustrated player venting after yet another night of questionable officiating has snowballed into a full-blown credibility crisis that threatens the very foundation of the league. Sophie Cunningham, known for her fiery competitiveness and blunt honesty, is no stranger to confrontation. But this time, her battle isn't with another team or an opposing star. It's with the very institution meant to govern the game she loves. And the fallout is rattling players, fans, and league executives alike. It all started with a game that, on the surface, looked like another hard-fought battle between the Indiana Fever and the Dallas Wings. Paige Bueckers, the rising star, in future face of the league.
Again, I think it was defensively. I think they killed us in every quarter except the second quarter, and that's when we really picked up our defense.
Was at the center of the action. Cunningham herself admitted she loves Paige's game, praising her as a future Hall of Famer. But Sophie's admiration quickly turned to outrage. She watched referees hand Bueckers every whistle in sight. In her words, "You literally couldn't touch her." The imbalance was glaring. Physicality allowed on one side of the court was punished on the other. For a player like Sophie, whose game thrives on intensity and grit, the inconsistency was maddening. She wasn't about to stay silent. In an era where athletes have their own platforms, silence is no longer the default. Sophie took to TikTok, where she lip-synced to Sabrina Carpenter's Man-Child, directing the lyrics squarely at the referees. The message was blunt, stupid, slow, maybe it's useless. The clip was only 30 seconds long, but it hit the league like a grenade.
Yeah, I think, at the end of the day, we're all competitors and we're here to win, right? And so I think this is a fresh start.
The WNBA wasted no time. Within days, Sophie was slapped with a $500 fine. A message had been sent, but it was the wrong one. Instead of deterring her, it lit a fire. Sophie doubled down on her podcast, speaking openly about the officiating crisis that players had been whispering about for months. And for that, she was hit with another, even harsher penalty. This time, $1,500. 4 fines in total. Staggering $2,000 meant not to punish, but to silence. But if that was the WNBA's plan, it backfired spectacularly. The fines, meant to bury Sophie's voice, did the exact opposite. Fans rallied behind her with remarkable speed and ferocity. GoFundMe campaigns covered her fines within hours. Social media erupted with hashtags demanding accountability and transparency from referees. Petitions with thousands of signatures circulated, forcing the WNBA into an unwelcome spotlight.
Take a little bit of time. This is the first time that we actually got up and down like that, and so I'm not worried about it.
For once, the conversation wasn't just about Sophie's words. It was about what her words revealed. An officiating system riddled with inconsistency, bias, and incompetence. And a league leadership more interested in policing criticism than fixing the problem. The backlash reached a fever pitch when footage of the Fever's game circulated online. Clips showed Sophie being shoved, bumped, and bodied with no call, only to pick up fouls the moment she retaliated. At one point, Paige Bueckers visibly pushed Sophie into another player, creating a wide-open lane. The referee's whistle blew not for the shove, but against Sophie. Fans watching the slow-motion replay were stunned. Sophie's arms were raised, doing nothing, yet she was tagged with the foul. These weren't just borderline calls. They were blatant errors, the kind of moments.
I think for us, it's more on the defensive end. I think offensively, I think everyone knows that, we're a power.
That fuels suspicions of bias and favoritism. And when Sophie spoke about it, the hammer of punishment came down harder than it ever had on the players responsible for cheap shots and dangerous plays. That hypocrisy struck a nerve. Caitlin Clark, the league's biggest star, has endured months of hacks, elbows, and blindside hits with little protection from officials. From Marina Mabry's cheap shot to Dejanai Carrington's near-eye poke, the dangerous fouls piled up. Yet the league handed out no meaningful punishments, no fines, no suspensions, nothing. But when Sophie Cunningham dared to call out referees for failing to protect players, the WNBA moved swiftly, delivering fines with almost militaristic precision. The double standard was impossible to ignore. Protecting words over protecting athletes, silencing critics instead of protecting stars. For fans and players, the message was clear, and it wasn't a good one.
Powerhouse there, but for me, it's defensively. How can we be a powerhouse on both ends?
Steph has talked a lot about wanting.
What makes the WNBA's heavy-handed approach even more damaging is the contrast with the NBA. In the NBA, players like Draymond Green or legends like Charles Barkley have built entire reputations on their unfiltered criticism of referees and league decisions. Far from being silenced, their candor is celebrated. Barkley turned blunt honesty into a broadcasting empire. Green's rants spark debate, not fines. Even when punishment comes, it's rarely about silencing dissent. The culture is one of dialogue, transparency, and accountability. Mistakes happen, but fans trust the system because they see effort to fix it. The WNBA, on the other hand, seems stuck in a defensive crouch where any criticism is treated as a threat to its image. Instead of openness, it delivers intimidation. Instead of transparency, it enforces silence. Ironically, that strategy has only magnified
A player-led team, and Kelsey said that was kind of the case during that 17-5 run.
Sophie's voice. What might have been a minor post-game gripe has turned into a league-wide reckoning. The Streisand effect is in full swing. The harder the WNBA tries to bury the story, the louder it gets. Sophie's podcast has surged in popularity. Fans who never cared about officiating are now paying attention, dissecting plays, and demanding reform. The conversation has shifted from Sophie Cunningham versus referees to something much bigger. A debate about the very culture and credibility of the WNBA itself. Sophie's comments weren't reckless. She didn't curse. She didn't insult officials personally. She acknowledged that some referees are good at their jobs and admitted it isn't easy. But she pointed out what thousands of fans already saw: blatant miscalls and inconsistent standards that affect the integrity of the game. For that, she was fined. In other words,
In the second quarter, just how did you see that in that run, and how did you kind of try to lead in that situation?
punished for telling the truth. And that's where the WNBA's leadership, under Commissioner Kathy Engelbert, finds itself in dangerous territory. By cracking down on truth-tellers instead of fixing problems, the league has created a culture of fear and resentment. Players are left wondering if they'll be next. Fans are left questioning the integrity of games. Critics are left with an easy target, a league that prioritizes optics over authenticity. What's most alarming is how deeply this issue strikes at the league's future. The WNBA is in a rare moment of growth. Caitlin Clark has brought unprecedented attention and ratings. Stars like Paige Buchers, Angel Reese, and Sophie Cunningham are drawing new fans. This should be the league's golden era. But instead of capitalizing on momentum, the WNBA is bogged down in scandal. Articles and national outlets like the Wall Street Journal now question whether the league is fostering a hostile environment for its players. That's the kind of coverage that scares it.
I think it was defensively. I think they killed us in every quarter except the second quarter, and that's when we really picked up our defense.
Away sponsors, alienates fans, and stunts growth. At a time when women's basketball should be thriving, the WNBA's leadership is dragging it backward. For Sophie, the fines have only strengthened her resolve. On her podcast, she laid out the issue with unmistakable clarity. She described how referees in the women's game are too emotionally invested, unable to handle criticism without retaliation. She contrasted it with the NBA, where referees endure constant verbal abuse from players and coaches and still do their jobs. In her eyes, the WNBA refs lack that resilience, and instead of adapting, the league shields them with heavy fines against critics. It was a stinging indictment, but one grounded in reality. Fans see the same inconsistency. Players feel the same frustration. Sophie is simply the one bold enough to say it aloud.
And so for us, it's just having each other's backs. It's making sure that you're constantly communicating.
The consequences of ignoring her are severe. Bad officiating doesn't just ruin games, it erodes trust. Once fans begin doubting the integrity of results, Once players believe outcomes are determined by whistles rather than effort, the league's foundation begins to crumble. That's not hyperbole, it's history. Other leagues have faced credibility crises, and the ones that refuse to adapt paid dearly in reputation and revenue. The WNBA is now at that same crossroads. Will it acknowledge the officiating disaster and move toward reform, or will it keep doubling down on punishment, risking its credibility in the process? What's truly at stake here isn't just one player's bank account or one game's outcome. It's the future of the league itself. Sophie Cunningham has inadvertently become the face of a movement, a symbol of players demanding fairness, fans demanding transparency, and a sport demanding respect. The league can treat her as a problem, or it can see her as an opportunity.
Up there to give your other players confidence to get up in the ball, and I feel like the more you talk, the better your rotations are.
It's an opportunity to rebuild trust, to embrace honesty, and to strengthen its foundation. But the clock is ticking, and every fine, every ignored foul, every silenced critic pushes the WNBA closer to a collapse of confidence it may never recover from. So where does this leave us? In a league where Caitlin Clark takes cheap shots with no protection, where Sophie Cunningham gets fined for speaking the truth, and where referees wield more unchecked power than the stars themselves, one question looms larger than all the others. Can the WNBA admit its crisis and reform before it's too late? Or will it continue down a path where silencing voices matters more than protecting players? The answer to that question may define the league for decades to come. Because right now, Sophie Cunningham's fight isn't just about her. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want to stay updated on every twist in this ongoing drama, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and turn on all notifications.